Nirmala Penta disappeared without a trace, leaving a quiet town haunted by questions. What really happened to her, and who was orchestrating the terrifying mystery from the shadows? Nirmala Penta was a bright and ambitious 17-year-old, living in a small town where everyone knew each other. She was known for her friendly nature, her determination in school, and the way she always seemed to brighten any room she entered. Her life appeared ordinary, but beneath the surface, a storm was quietly building. On an early Thursday morning, she left her home like any other day, dressed neatly and carrying her school bag filled with books and notebooks. Her family expected her to return by evening, but that day, she never came back. Initially, her parents assumed she had been delayed or had gone somewhere with friends, but as hours passed, worry replaced hope. By the time evening came, there was no sign of her. The following morning, Nirmala's school reported her absence, triggering concern among classmates and teachers alike. When her family arrived at the bus stop where she was supposed to be picked up, they found something chilling. Her backpack was left neatly on the ground, her books stacked inside, as if she had carefully placed them there moments before vanishing. There were no signs of a struggle, no footprints leading away, only a faint impression of tire marks that didn't match any known vehicle in the area. The town was shaken. Nirmala's disappearance seemed impossible, leaving a lingering unease in a place where nothing like this had ever happened. Rumors began circulating almost immediately. Some claimed to have seen a black van parked near the bus stop early that morning, its windows tinted and doors closed, but no one could remember the driver or provide a license plate number. Others suggested she had simply run away, though that theory seemed unlikely considering her responsible nature and strong ties to her family. The authorities arrived, examining the bus stop, questioning neighbors, and reviewing any available surveillance footage. But strangely, the cameras that should have captured the area that morning were missing, their recordings conveniently deleted or corrupted. It was as if someone had anticipated her disappearance and erased all evidence. As the days turned into weeks, the town became gripped by fear and suspicion. Every passerby, every stranger, and even familiar faces drew suspicion. Nirmala's absence became a constant shadow over the community, haunting conversations and breaking the rhythm of everyday life. Families locked their doors, parents warned children about strangers, and neighbors watched each other more closely than ever before. No one knew whether she had been taken by a stranger or if something more personal was at play. But one thing was certain: Nirmala Penta's disappearance was not ordinary, and the calm of the town had been shattered forever. The investigation into Nirmala Penta's disappearance began immediately, with police scouring every possible lead and questioning everyone connected to her life. Her family, friends, and teachers were interrogated repeatedly, and detectives searched for any clue that might explain where she had gone. At first, nothing seemed out of place. Her friends insisted she had no reason to leave voluntarily, and her family described her as careful and obedient, someone who would never wander off without telling anyone. Yet, despite the apparent normalcy of her life, small, unsettling details began to emerge. Surveillance cameras along her usual route were checked, but footage from the bus stop, the very spot where she had vanished, was mysteriously missing. Authorities claimed the cameras had malfunctioned, but the timing was suspicious, fueling speculation that someone had deliberately erased the recordings. Further investigation revealed that Nirmala had received a series of cryptic messages on her phone in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. The messages were brief and threatening, warning her to stay away from certain areas and avoid particular people. Despite attempts to trace the sender, authorities hit dead ends at every turn. Her phone records showed a call made the night before she disappeared to an unknown number, which had been disconnected shortly afterward. It was a detail that raised alarm bells. Someone might have been monitoring her, manipulating her life from the shadows. As detectives delved deeper, they began to realize that Nirmala's disappearance was no ordinary missing person case. The town itself became part of the investigation. Neighbors reported seeing unfamiliar cars and individuals loitering near Nirmala's home and school. Some described a dark vehicle parked for hours, its presence unnoticed until later scrutiny revealed it had been there the entire day of her disappearance. Each tip seemed small and insignificant, yet the authorities began piecing together a pattern. Someone had been carefully observing Nirmala, waiting for the right moment to act. The more the investigators dug, the more it appeared that her disappearance had been meticulously planned. By the end of the first month, the case had drawn national attention. Journalists swarmed the town, printing every rumor and theory, adding pressure to the police to solve the mystery. Meanwhile, residents grew anxious, locking doors and warning their children to stay close. Fear, suspicion, and uncertainty hung over the town like a heavy cloud, and it became increasingly clear that Nirmala's disappearance was not random. Someone had orchestrated the events that morning with precision, leaving the town to wonder not just where she was, but who could be capable of carrying out such a calculated act. The investigation was only beginning, and the answers remained just out of reach. Months into the investigation, the search for Nirmala Penta took a startling turn. Authorities received an anonymous tip pointing them to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. The building was hidden behind overgrown weeds and broken fencing, a place long forgotten by the community. When police entered, the scene inside sent chills through everyone present. Among the dust and decay, they discovered items that clearly belonged to Nirmala: her school books, a backpack, and most unsettling of all, her diary. The diary was filled with pages that had once been private, revealing a level of fear and anxiety that no one had known about. Nirmala had written about being followed, about strange men in the neighborhood, and about someone who seemed to know her schedule and movements. It was a record of someone living in constant vigilance, someone who had sensed danger but couldn't escape it. Forensic teams scoured the warehouse, uncovering soil traces that matched an abandoned construction site nearby. This suggested that Nirmala had been moved from place to place, possibly to avoid detection. Investigators began to piece together a pattern. Her disappearance was not a random event but a carefully orchestrated plan carried out by someone familiar with her routines. Every step she had taken, every safe place she thought she could go, had been monitored and manipulated. The discovery of the diary revealed details no one else could have known, hinting at a person close to her, someone she trusted who had begun isolating her long before the disappearance. The diary also mentioned a shadowy figure, someone whose presence felt invasive and constant. Nirmala had written about fleeting glimpses of this person, the feeling of being watched while walking to school or doing errands. It became clear that the threats she had recorded in her phone messages were not idle harassment, but a sustained campaign to intimidate and control her. Investigators realized that the van sightings, the missing surveillance footage, and the cryptic calls were all part of a larger scheme. Nirmala's ordeal had been carefully hidden in plain sight, disguised as a disappearance that seemed mysterious to the casual observer. The warehouse evidence painted a chilling picture. Nirmala had been alive, moving, and hiding, but under constant threat. It was a revelation that shifted the investigation into a new and more dangerous phase. Detectives now understood that they were dealing not with a simple case of kidnapping or runaway, but with a meticulous predator who had studied their victim for weeks, if not months. Every clue, every discovery, only deepened the mystery, revealing that the story of Nirmala Penta was far more complex and sinister than anyone could have imagined. The closer the authorities came to understanding what happened, the more questions arose, and the line between victim and survivor began to blur. Just as investigators began to feel they were closing in on the truth about Nirmala Penta, a shocking development upended everything they thought they knew. Surveillance footage from a neighboring town surfaced, showing Nirmala walking calmly down a busy street months after her disappearance. She appeared alert, composed, and completely unafraid, a stark contrast to the image of a girl trapped and in danger that the warehouse evidence had suggested. The footage stunned authorities and the public alike, leaving everyone questioning what had really happened during those long months. If Nirmala had been seen alive, why had she not contacted her family or friends? And who had orchestrated the false leads that had consumed the investigation for so long? The new evidence forced detectives to reconsider every assumption. The van sightings, the missing surveillance footage, and the anonymous tip pointing to the warehouse suddenly took on a different meaning. It became apparent that someone had been manipulating the investigation from the beginning, intentionally feeding false leads and destroying or concealing evidence to misdirect the authorities. Every clue they had chased, every theory they had pursued, now seemed to have been planted to confuse and mislead them. The case was no longer just about a disappearance. It was about deception on an alarming scale. Investigators turned their attention to the people closest to Nirmala, analyzing relationships, past interactions, and possible motives. It became increasingly clear that the threat she faced was not from a stranger but from someone within her immediate environment, someone who knew her routines, her fears, and how to remain hidden while keeping her isolated. Nirmala's careful movements and her ability to avoid detection hinted at a level of intelligence and resourcefulness that had gone unnoticed. She was not merely a passive victim, but someone navigating a dangerous and calculated game of survival, making choices that kept her hidden from both predator and police. The town itself was thrown into turmoil. Residents who had believed in the innocence of their neighbors now questioned the motives of those around them. Trust fractured, and the once close community grew wary and suspicious, unsure of who might have played a role in orchestrating the deception. Nirmala's presence on the surveillance footage, calm and composed, suggested that she had been acting deliberately to protect herself, leaving investigators to wonder how much of the danger she had experienced had been real and how much had been carefully staged to cover her movements. The lines between victim, survivor, and manipulator blurred, creating a complex puzzle that challenged every theory the police had built. The mystery of Nirmala Penta was no longer just about her disappearance. It had transformed into a story of strategy, deception, and survival, raising more questions than it answered. Years of investigation, technological advancements, and relentless determination finally brought clarity to the mystery of Nirmala Penta. What had once seemed like a simple disappearance evolved into a story of survival, careful planning, and deception. Through digital forensics, new phone records, and renewed interviews, authorities discovered that Nirmala had been hiding deliberately, moving between locations to avoid someone she had once trusted. The shadowy figure from her diary, the van sightings, and the false tips that had misled police all pointed to a single person, a neighbor who had developed a dangerous obsession with her. This individual had monitored Nirmala for weeks, orchestrating events to create confusion and delay the investigation, carefully manipulating everyone around her to make it appear as though she had been kidnapped or worse. Nirmala's survival was a testament to her intelligence and courage. She had been fully aware of the risks and had taken calculated steps to ensure her safety while leaving minimal traces of her movements. Every diary entry, every careful decision to change locations, and every avoidance of contact with friends or family had been part of a deliberate plan. She understood that revealing herself too soon could put her in direct danger, so she waited patiently for the right moment. The anonymous tip that led authorities to the warehouse, once thought to be a breakthrough, was in fact a manipulation designed to throw the investigation off course and protect her from immediate discovery. The town, once gripped by fear and suspicion, was forced to confront the unsettling truth. The danger had not come from strangers or an outside threat, but from someone within the community. Nirmala's disappearance had been meticulously orchestrated by someone with intimate knowledge of her life. Yet, despite the danger and deception, she emerged alive, resourceful, and ultimately in control of her own story. Her ability to outsmart her predator and evade detection became the central revelation of the case. Nirmala's reemergence, although quiet and private, offered closure to her family and authorities who had spent years searching for answers. The investigation underscored the importance of patience, resilience, and careful analysis in uncovering the truth. It also served as a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and those closest to you may harbor hidden dangers. What had begun as a terrifying mystery transformed into a story of survival, strategy, and strength. Nirmala Penta's ordeal became a lesson in vigilance, courage, and the power of perseverance, leaving a lasting mark on the town and the nation. Her story, once shrouded in fear, finally emerged as a testament to resilience and the human spirit's ability to endure even the most calculated threats.